Gentlemen, what is going on today? My name is Ryan Mickler, and I am the host and the founder of the Order of Man podcast and movement. I want to welcome you here. I don't care how long you've been here. It doesn't matter to me. If you're here, you're here. If you're a man, you want to improve, you want to get better, you want to make yourself more capable, then we've got the tools, the resources, the conversations, the outlets you need to be able to do just that. And I've got an important one for you today because you know as well as I do that we live in, I was going to say interesting times. That's not the right word. Insane would be more accurate. We've got children dictating the tone of the conversation, the tone of culture. We've got elected officials who are cowardly and spineless and unwilling to do anything about it. We've got citizens who are taking matters into their own hands, and rightfully so, and then being faced with either some sort of public ridicule or shame or doxing or even legal ramifications and actions. And it's clear to me that we have a huge discrepancy in the type of men collectively we know we can be, that we should be, that people are relying upon us to be, and the fact that there just doesn't seem to be many men in positions of authority and power who are doing the work of men. So it's on us. It's on us to be able to step up and to do what needs to be done to take back society, to take back culture, to be able to dictate the tone of the conversation, and to be able to lead our families and our communities and neighborhoods effectively. And one of the things that I think is the biggest challenge to us doing that is allowing our emotions to get the better of us. Obviously, we live in emotionally turbulent and charged times. People are riled up and upset, and some of that might be justified, but the way that I've seen people react and behave and lash out is not indicative of what it means to be a man, but more indicative of what it means to be a boy who has no control over his emotional response, reaction, and outburst. So today what I thought I'd do is share with you why emotions are actually important. There seems to be a lot of misconceptions behind what emotions are and how they can serve us, because I'm not telling you not to be emotional. That's taking things to the extreme on the other end. Overly emotional versus not emotional at all. And I'm not saying that. And I don't think anybody, generally speaking, who talks about being able to control your emotions is telling you to suppress your emotions. That's not what this is about. But I think there is a general belief that somehow if you're saying don't be overly emotional, that it's interpreted as don't be emotional at all, that men aren't allowed to express their emotions. And nobody's actually saying that. All right, what I'm suggesting to you when I say something like don't be overly emotional or don't react or respond emotionally is not that it's not present, but that you use your emotions in a way that's actually going to serve you and your best interest and the best interest of the people that you have an obligation and responsibility for. And we do that not by dismissing what our emotions are signifying to us, but we do that by embracing it and then creating and coming up with a better course of action that will propel and move us forward. So in my book, Sovereignty, that I wrote or released in February of 2017, I think that's right, 2017, or maybe 2018. I don't know. It blends all together at this point. I talked about an analogy that I wanted to share with you here today so that you and I can wrap our heads around where our emotions come into play and why it's so important. And the analogy or the metaphor, whatever it is that I use regarding your emotions is like a dashboard on your car vehicle. You've got the speedometer, you've got the odometer, you've got the fuel gauge, you've got the oil light, you've got all these little indicators telling you if your engine is working right. And my wife and I had just bought a new Suburban about a week and a half ago. And we went on a little vacation for not only our anniversary, but with the kids as well for the past 3 or 4 days as of this recording. It was just a couple days ago. And we felt a noise, or we heard a noise and we felt a little bump as we were driving in our new Suburban, and we weren't quite sure what it was, and both of us looked at each other like, oh, what was that? And immediately my eyes were drawn to the dashboard. right? Because you want to look at the dashboard and say, okay, are we still going the same speed? Is the engine getting hot? Are there any check engine lights that have come on? Are there any indicators on this dashboard that would tell us or signify that something is off, that something is wrong? And if there was, then we would respond and we would react accordingly. Well, your emotions are the same. If, for example, you're driving down the road and you notice that the fuel gauge comes on, or the beep comes on and says you're running low on gas, what would you do? Well, you'd pull over at the next gas station and you'd go to the gas pump and you'd fill up gas, and then you'd put the gas cap back on and you'd get on the road and you'd go about your day. But it certainly wouldn't derail you, right? It wouldn't cripple you. It wouldn't ruin you. You wouldn't get mad at the car for running out of gas. You would just say, hey, I need to make a correction here. I need to fill the gas up, and here we go. If the little check engine light came on, you wouldn't get like pissed, right? Because that would be unreasonable. You would take it to your mechanic, or you would look it up yourself and you would figure out what is going on. You'd get under the hood, you'd explore, you'd dive in a little bit deeper, figure out, okay, what is it that's going on here? And then what is my course of action to fix it so that I can maintain the vehicle and I can continue doing what it is I need to be doing? Those are your emotions. All right, so we get upset and we get pissed off and we get fired up and we get mad and we get all these things, and then we get out of control, and then we end up not helping ourselves but undermining our efforts because we freak out. And what we need to realize is that our emotions are there to serve us, even the so-called negative emotions. Right? You'll hear people talk about anger or sorrow or guilt or remorse or jealousy or envy. You'll hear people talk about these things as if they're negative. Well, they're not negative. Right? You wouldn't consider any of the gauges on your dashboard as negative. They're amoral. They're not good nor bad. They just are. And if you as a man can look at your emotion as a tool, not the only tool, because if you're building a house and you need a hammer, well, and all you have is a screwdriver, well, you're out of luck. I mean, maybe you could like whack it with the end of the screwdriver, but it's going to take you a really long time and it's not going to be built very well. So what you need is another tool in the tool belt. And that's what emotions are. They're another tool. They're not the only tool. And that is what the problem is in society, is that so many people are reacting based solely off emotion. This is why I actually like what Ben Shapiro says when he says, facts don't care about your feelings. Rationale and logic and critical thinking are another tool. Again, not the only tool, because your emotions should be taken into consideration. But clear, level-headed thinking, facts, statistic, data, information, resources, all these things, these are tools. And your emotions are tools. And when you're building a house, you need to know what tool needs to be used. But you're not going to be upset that you have a screwdriver. You're going to be upset that you don't have this other tool, right? So you've got to develop the tools. You've got to harness your emotions so that you can produce effective outcomes for everybody involved. And the first step is to realize that your emotions aren't there to hinder you. So this isn't some, people like to talk about toxic masculinity, which we've talked about and I'll probably talk about again. Like I dismiss that term. But when people say that, what part of what they're saying is that men believe they need to reject and dismiss their emotions altogether. And I actually believe that there's a lot of men who do think that we can't be emotional at all. Well, that's not true. I get emotional. I get angry. I get upset. I get sad. I get happy. I get teary-eyed from time to time if I'm dealing with something emotional. I see one of my kids do something or say something to me or give me a gift or something's touching or I lose a loved one or a friend. Like I get emotional. But not to the point where it hinders my ability to do what I need to do. And that's the difference. See, so many people in society, in culture today, and these are children, and I don't care what age they are. These could be grown people, and they're acting like children because they're letting their emotion dictate as the sole indicator of their response. And what I'm suggesting to you is not, again, that we dismiss it completely, And not that we embrace it solely, but that we use it. We use it. So here's the first step. You got to understand that if your emotions are there to serve you, even like I said a minute ago, the so-called negative ones, then you've got to ask yourself, when you feel that you're getting emotional, and by the way, this takes margin in your day. Most of us don't have this margin. Like, think about how consumed your day is. Think about how backed up it is. And if you have any spare time at all, what do? You jump on your phone, right? And you waste it on your phone. But what if instead you had checkpoints throughout your day where you just gave yourself an opportunity to take a step back, to evaluate the situation, evaluate how you're feeling, just like if you're driving down the road, occasionally you glance at your speedometer and you see, okay, how fast am I going? Or you glance at your fuel gauge, how much fuel do I have? Well, you need to do that in your life with your emotions, right? So throughout the day, if you notice yourself getting fired up, heated up, angry, happy, sad, glad, mad, whatever, then you need to take a step back so that you can say, all right, what is it that's causing this? Instead of just being so reactionary, respond instead. The difference between reaction and response. Reaction is not thinking. It's just intuitively, instinctively, like, I'm pissed, address it. I'm pissed, yell at somebody. I feel bad, be upset, and ruin your day, right? Response, on the other hand, is more of a mature, level-headed approach. Like, I'm pissed, what am I pissed off about? Okay, now you're acting more maturely. So if you're angry about something, it's okay. Actually, anger might be the right emotion. People say, oh, don't get angry. Why? There's certain things you should be angry about. Or if you feel guilt for not performing the way you should, or doing something you shouldn't, or not honoring your word and upholding what it is you said you were going to do, then guilt is actually the right emotion to be experiencing. Now, we don't want to dwell in this forever. We don't want to be guilty about something forever, because then it turns into anxiety, it turns into depression, and potentially even turns into suicidal thoughts. And this is what a lot of men are missing. They're missing the bridge between emotion and response. So they get caught up in this emotional feedback loop. So for example, they make a commitment to themselves, or maybe even their spouse, and they slip up, they screw up, they mess up, and they step out on their spouse, they step out on their wife, and sleep with another woman, get involved with another woman in some way. And they realize it's wrong. They realize it's bad. And so now they feel guilty about it. But instead of using the guilt as an appropriate respond and way to move forward, now they feel bad about being guilty, and then they want to hide the guilt instead of deal with it. So they get into mediums of sedation, is what I'll call them, whether it's alcohol or drug use or pornography, or just withdrawing from your responsibilities altogether. These are mediums of escape. And so now you know you shouldn't be doing something. You did it. You feel guilty about it. Now you're going to sedate the guilt by getting involved with these things that can cover up and hide. And you know you're still not addressing the root issue, which is being a man of your word, which is owning up to your mistakes and your shortcomings, and then correcting the behavior moving forward. That's what you know you should do, but you got into this emotional loop, and it's just like a cycle. You never get out of it. Instead, what you need to do is you need to deal with it in a healthy way, which is, okay, I feel guilty because I did this thing. Now, instead of sedating myself, I'm going to address it. I'm going to make amends. I'm going to fix the situation. I'm going to tell the truth to potentially my spouse about what happened, which is obviously very uncomfortable and very difficult. Or alternatively, you could never do it and completely ruin your life because you're stuck in this emotional loop. So emotions are just a trigger to create a new response for yourself. So if you're feeling angry, or you're feeling remorseful, or you're feeling guilty, or you're feeling happy, the first step is to ask yourself, what is it that I'm experiencing? Fill in the blank with your emotion. Why am I feeling that way? If it's a positive, If it's a net gain to your life, then congratulations. You just figured out something that makes you happy, something that makes you proud, something that fulfills you or makes you satisfied. A great example would be going to the gym. You get up early, you don't want to get up because you're in the warm bed, your wife's next to you, you want to get a few more winks. Like it's better in the short term to stay in bed. But you decide, because you're a man of your word, you made the commitment to do it, to get out of bed, to go into the gym and go work out and go train or do whatever it is you're going to do physical. And you're exhausted and you're beat down and it takes you a minute to get going, but finally you get going and then you get done with the workout and you feel better about yourself. But don't let that stop there. You feel pride, you feel accomplishment, you feel satisfied, you feel fulfilled and energized and uplifted. And most of us just dismiss it. Like we don't give it a second thought. But we need to connect those dots. The dots that need to be connected are a feeling of pride, satisfaction, fulfillment, worth with going to the gym. And if you give yourself the margin and the space to actually think about that and let your mind hardwire, quite literally hardwire those connections. Gym feels good, right? Gym equals feels good. Then you're more likely to do it next time when you have the desire to shirk off, to sleep in a little bit longer than you'd like, those type of things. So again, the first step is to give yourself the margin and start thinking about or answering the question, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel this way? If it's positive, good, keep doing it. If it's negative, now you start coming up with some solutions. And I'm not going to tell you all the solutions or how to get into that right now, and not for the sake of time necessarily, but just because there's so many variabilities. But I want you to start looking at emotions differently. Instead of thinking that this is a great hindrance to you, that you consider that your emotions are a great help. And look, whether you believe in creation or evolution or somewhere in between or a combination of both, like we would not have our emotions if they didn't serve us in some capacity. But like everything, things can be taken to the extreme. And when they're taken to the extreme, it becomes unhealthy. And your emotions taken to the extreme can become unhealthy, but used correctly can be a very healthy medium and outlet for you improving your life and for helping other people improve their lives. So my call to you today, guys, is to not be so emotionally reactionary. And instead, as you become emotional, take a step back, pause, time out, withdrawal. If you're in a heated debate and argument, you get pissed off, like don't keep going. That's the exact wrong thing to do. It's like, well, time out. Let me take a step back. Maybe that's 15 minutes. Maybe that's a full day or longer. Don't withdraw altogether. That's where we get into the sedation thing and the emotional loop that I was talking about. But you withdraw temporarily so you can wrap your head around why you're feeling this way and use the emotion of anger or fear or whatever as a tool, not the only tool, as a tool to combine it with rational, clear, level-headed thinking, and then you can re-engage in the situation. Whether it's an argument with your wife, a conversation with your boss, you falling short of your expectations, you feeling bad because you did or did not do something that you knew you should not be doing, then you re-engage and you create a new course of action. And your emotions can be a big help in that. This is how we harness these things. This is how we use the tools at our disposal to become more effective men, to lead effectively, to lead ourselves effectively, to lose weight, to honor our commitments, to stand strong when we're tempted to waver, when other people might be ridiculing or mocking or belittling what it is you're doing. These are ways that you can act on the courage that you feel and all the emotions, the range of emotions that we experience as men. Guys, don't allow yourself not to be emotional. It's not what it's about. It's about not being emotionally reactional and instead learning to respond in a mature, healthy way to the emotions that you're feeling, that you're experiencing, and then allowing those things to produce positive results for you. All right? So connect with me, guys. Connect with me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you're doing the social media thing. Parler is a new app. I'm on there as well, all at Ryan Mickler. Let me know how you're using your emotions, how you're harnessing your emotions for the betterment of yourself and your family and your loved ones. I think this is a conversation that we need to have more often, because it seems like there's two sides to the equation, or two teams, like the no emotion ever, which obviously is just not possible, and the overly emotional, which is just react to the emotion and just make stupid decisions based on solely on the emotions that you're experiencing. So let me know what's working for you. Also, we've got a new course available if you're not familiar with it. It's called 30 Days to Battle Ready. It's free. It's a 30-day course. You'll get a bunch of emails from me walking you through 4 phases to develop the discipline. That's what guys are really needing, in my experience and what I've seen and what they've communicated with me, is just developing the discipline to do what they know they should be doing. Like, guys, you all know what you should be doing. You have goals, you have ambitions, like, you know what it is you should be doing. But there's so many of you who are lacking the discipline to be able to follow through and carry through with the things that you know you should be doing. This course is going to walk you through the 4 phases to develop the systems for discipline and exerting willpower so that you can accomplish what you want to accomplish. If you head to orderofman.com/battle-ready, you can check it out and access it. It's immediate access, so once you drop your email in there, you're going to get an email from me explaining the first steps, and we're off to the races. So guys, learn how to harness your emotions, connect into the Battle Ready program. We've also got a lot of new merchandise in our store. Store.orderofman.com is a great way not only to support what we're doing, but to look good in the process. We've got our battle planners in stock. We've got a new kids battle planner coming down the pike here within the next, I would say, 2 to 3 weeks. So we've got a lot going on. And I just want to tell you that I appreciate you, that I thank you for being in this battle, in this fight with me. And it is a battle. I use that term deliberately. That's not just hyperbole. It's a battle. It's a battle against your weaker self. It's a battle for your family, for our society, for our culture, for our country, for crying out loud right now. It's a battle for everything. And if you approach it with that mindset, I think you're going to equip yourself with what you need to thrive and succeed and win the battle. All right, guys. We'll be back next week for another exciting interview. Make sure you're subscribed. But until then, go out there, harness your emotions. Harness them. Don't subdue them. Don't react to them. Harness them and respond correctly. Anyways, become the man you are meant to be.